record survives.
Thank you, Craig Mosbach and Otto Bolden, for the call on NBCSN. Johnny T. Gray's American record did indeed survive. Welcome, everyone, to a special Super Bowl edition of Let'sRun.com's Track Talk. I'm LRC founder Weldon Johnson, and I'll be joined by co-founder Rojo and ace track and field rider Jonathan Gault. As you heard from the call at the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix in Boston, the professional track and field season is here in full force. After Boston, Sydney McLaughlin is now a pro. Is she also a diva? There was also another big debut in Boston, split screen technology. Meanwhile, halfway around the globe in Dubai, both course records in the marathon fell, and another Federica Rosa athlete ran fast. Meanwhile, in the Armory, the 3,000 high school record fell. We'll discuss all of those things today, but we're most excited about having our first guest of the year, and what a guest she is. Shelby Houlihan turned heads in 2018 by not only breaking the American record at 5,000, but becoming one of the best 1,500-meter runners in the world. She won the 15s at Prix and Lausanne and blitzed the 3:57 by the end of the year. But she's not content to rest on her laurels in 2019, as she's now Shelby Houlihan, 10K runner. She'll be making her 10K debut at this weekend's World Cross Country Championships in Florida, and we'll discuss that decision with her and what's on tap in 2019. Guys, Robert, Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Weldon. I didn't actually know that World Cross Country was this weekend. I thought it was just the U.S. Cross Country Championships. I'm going to have to get up to date really quickly on that one.
Yeah, no. Do we pick out? I haven't seen any tickets booked for Denmark yet, so we got about 1 week to turn that around, right? But no, very excited for what should be another good weekend of track and field and cross country even.
My second mistake of the 2019 podcasting season. Yes, the U.S. Cross Country Championships are this weekend. I'm so pumped about the World Championships in Aarhus, Denmark. If anyone's thinking about a great trip, seriously, book your tickets, email me. We'll sort of try to arrange something on Let's Run. It's going to be great. They got races for like spectators who can run, and then they're going to have you run over on top of a building. There's water. It's going to be classic cross country with beer tents, sponsor. They've been promising a proper Danish party for a couple years. So if anyone's thinking about a trip to Europe later this spring, get on it.
I didn't know that you'd be attending, Weldon. I have a legacy at Let'sRun.com of being the only member to go to all parts of the world, Amman, Jordan, Guiyang, China, for World Cross Country. So I was hoping to be the only Let's Run member there, but I guess sharing the wealth, I guess. But no, it should be a great meet. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, it's going to be tremendous. And we got a 30-minute interview with Shelby Houlihan at the end of this podcast. So time is short, guys. Let's get started. Robert said he would drink a beer at every podcast, but it's the first podcast we've actually done at night. This is the Sierra Nevada Resilience IPA. I am supporting the people from the campfire. So this is for a good cause. Anyone out there own a brewery? We should have an official beer of Let'sRun.com and the official beer runners everywhere. Let's get on it. Wait, sponsor plug. Floyd's of Leadville is the sponsor of this podcast. There's research indicating that CBD hemp oil can be effective at helping manage post-workout inflammation and helping you with pain. Check out floydsofleadville.com. They've got tinctures, creams, gels, pills that you can take. Use code LET'SRUN10 to save 10%. Thank you, Floyd's of Leadville. For the last podcast, I took a little Floyd's tincture under the tongue. I'm doing that now. Here's the tincture on the tongue, guys. All right, someone else. Let's kick this off as I take my Floyd's.
Well, Jonathan, where do you want to begin? I feel like we have to begin where I don't want to begin, and that's with Sydney McLaughlin's pro debut. I mean, she's a sort of media star. I was very much opposed to her getting the last race of the day in Boston, racing a watered-down field, and she did win the field, and they announced it on TV. Speaking of bad broadcasting, I meant to add a section into my Let'sRun.com week that was article about bad broadcasting. There are two instances of it this weekend. The second being Sonia Richards-Watts announcing it as a world record when it was sort of a mediocre world-class time. But Jonathan, Sydney won her pro debut. What I'm curious about was there really a lot of buzz? Were the fans into it? Did they buy sort of what I would say is almost, I don't know, it was a little bit too choreographed for me.
The fans were into it for sure. I would say compared to previous editions, I spoke to a few media members in a post-race get-together, and they were telling me, did it feel like a little off this year? Did it feel like there wasn't quite as much buzz in the building? And I kind of agreed with them. But the final race was the loudest I heard it all night when she was introduced. They were, very excited during the entire race. Darren Rovell of the Action Network was actually at the meet. He was sitting next to me in the media tribune. He was there specifically for Sydney's pro debut, though he is a track fan. We were watching the other races together as well. So there was definitely a buzz. She signed a lot of autographs afterwards. Clearly, people were excited to see her. I don't think they cared that much that she wasn't racing anyone very good at the 500 meters, and she was running this odd distance at a time which no one really knew what it meant. Clearly, not even Sonia Richards-Ross. So, but there was a buzz. People cared about her, and I thought she was very poised in the post-race interviews that she does, and she's been like that since she was 16. So there is definitely excitement. Whether that will carry on, and can she carry the entire sport on her shoulders? I probably, she's going to be a big star, but is she going to save the sport? I think that's kind of an impossible task for one person to do alone. But certainly there was energy in the building for this race, which was her only indoor race of the season.
Yeah, the idea of saving the sport to me is a ludicrous one. People said, first of all, the sport would die when Usain Bolt went away, and it seemed just fine to me last year. Anyways, but yeah, if you type into Google right now, Sydney McLaughlin, the top stories, the headlines were bothering me. Sydney McLaughlin runs world lead in professional debut, and they're linking to Runner's World. I think Taylor Dutch article, was Taylor even at the meet, John? So I think they were relying a lot of your interviews, actually. So, but the other story, John, that you broke worldwide, thanks to me catching it in your article and sort of emphasizing it on the message board, was Sydney McLaughlin wasn't happy at Kentucky. This is the Canadian Running Magazine line. There's two headlines that show up in Google right now. So that was interesting to me. You sort of talked to her about her new coach training. She's moved out to California. And you said, why didn't you follow Edric Forel? Sydney ran last year at Kentucky, now the new coach of Texas. And, she said she didn't enjoy the training environment in Kentucky. Some people are saying that she's saying she didn't enjoy Kentucky. To me, those are two different things. I think she probably enjoyed college. Who doesn't enjoy their freshman year of college? But, and now there's a thread, John, on the message board sort of calling her a diva for that, asking why did she say that? When I read your article, didn't think that at all. I thought this was amazing. This was actually very mature. She was speaking honestly. She answered the question. It wasn't a dig at Edric Forel. She ran amazing last year. Just take me through sort of the tone. I haven't actually watched the interview. I just read what she said. What was the center? Like, how did she feel about that?
Yeah, I think she was candid. She was honest. She wasn't saying, I hate Coach Flo. She wasn't throwing anyone under the bus. I think she was just saying that training environment, when you got to remember, she's a freshman. She's a very talented freshman, but she's a freshman in college, stepping into an environment with a woman who is the world record holder in the 100-meter hurdles, Kenny Harrison, and who won the world indoor title in the 60 hurdles last year, and the world champion in the 400 hurdles, Corey Carter. Those two women are seasoned professionals. They're very serious. It's an intense environment with both of those two in there. And then you're adding a girl who the year before is training with a bunch of high schoolers. And she's then stepped into an environment with two of the best hurdlers in the entire world. And to her, she saw that, and every practice just seemed very intense to her. I don't think that's what she was quite looking for. And she's doing all this as she's transitioning to a new part of the world, a new set up in terms of how she's living. She's off by her own in college for the first time. I think she just saw that and was like, look, this is a lot on my plate right now, and it requires a lot of constant focus, a lot of commitment. And those are things, obviously she has some level of commitment. She don't get to run the times that she has without it. But I think in all, she just wanted a more laid back environment. She wanted one where she wasn't going to be having to compete with these other women every day for attention or for, in splits or workouts and that sort of thing. She didn't want to be measuring herself against, again, two of the very best in the world every single day in practice. And so she sought out a different environment, one that was more laid back, one that she thought she would enjoy more. That's why she chose Joanna Hayes at USC. And, we have yet to see the results because she's run one race at an off distance in January, but she seemed very mature about the whole thing. And she was even, I asked her, she was the world leader by a fair amount last year. If you don't win the world championships, is that, are you going to view that as a failure given that you were so far ahead of everyone on the world leaderboard last year? She's like, no, this is a transition year. This is about staying healthy, making sure I get myself in the right environment, that I transition, from college to professional and make that transition smoothly. And she thinks that she's going to have several years beyond this to still run really well. And I think it was all in all very mature decision. I don't think she was throwing anyone under the bus. I think she was respectful. I thought she handled it all very well. And it was interesting to learn why she chose to go to California.
Yeah, I thought it was great too, the honesty. This is Weldon. We're always critical of athletes and not saying how they feel. She didn't throw anyone under the bus, as you said, John. She answered the question, and then people in Let's Run want to call her a diva. She can have a personality on social media, Instagram, sort of, be some sort of fashion icon. That doesn't mean she's a diva when she answers questions. It's how the sports world should work. She runs a soft race. We pointed out, I think, as Otto Bolden said, not the strongest of fields here. That's, when you're on the broadcasting team, sometimes your criticism isn't quite as strong, and it's fine. They want to set up a win. They got it. She answered the questions, and now it's on to the outdoor season for her. But it's good to hear that there was a buzz in the stadium. I'm glad sort of that was there. Like track and field, it needs all the buzz it can get. The indoor circuit used to be a big thing back before I was a kid. They had professional meets at all the big arenas in America. All the big basketball stadiums had professional meets, and now we've got pretty much 3 indoor meets and converted, something now much bigger than a barn. So it was a great meet on TV. There's some great action. Anything else stand out from Boston that we want to talk about quickly?
Yeah, and I haven't watched the whole television broadcast, but NBC executives, I do stuff. It's probably annoying people because every year I act like I'm an expert on television when all I do is the Ivy League broadcast. Folks, though, get your ESPN Plus subscriptions now. I'll be doing the Ivy League broadcast at the end of February on ESPN Plus. But to me, it's not that hard to do a broadcast well. And what I noticed this year is they've got Otto Bolden, who I love. He is the ultimate. He's our favorite sprint analyst in the world. But this year they had him doing the play-by-play, and I'm going to have to go back and watch the whole 2 hours, but the little part that I listened to, I was also watching on NBC Gold, which had Tim Hutchings, which is a different announcer on my computer, but it doesn't work well. Otto is a sprint analyst. When he's doing play-by-play, we don't even get his analysis really that much because we have to listen to Sonia Richards-Ross. Otto Bolden is so much better than Sonia Richards-Ross. We want to hear Otto Bolden. I know that the audience for the Olympics is predominantly female or is more than 50% female. So maybe they're trying to get Sonia a role in there. You can bring her in a little bit, but let Otto do his sprint analysis. He should not be doing play-by-play, or maybe let him do the play-by-play for the sprint races, but the distance races, I don't know. Like you have to kind of be either a pro play-by-play guy or no distance running to do that. Or Otto, just give me a call before the races and I'll tell you what to talk about because you got a lot of I could fake doing play-by-play for a sprint race. People don't think about this because there's only a few seconds. There's you don't have that much time. In a distance race, when Jenny Simpson's running a 5K, you have 15 minutes to burn. So you kind of really have to know distance running or be a pro play-by-play guy. So that was my big complaint there. But yeah,
there were two improvements on the broadcast. We got to give them improvements. John, you're probably not aware of this because you didn't see it.
Oh, I was told about this. The split screen.
Whoa, you heard about it.
Paul Swangard was talking it up. He was making sure that I knew about this, and it's a long-awaited development, and it gets a round of applause from me.
I'm not even sure. Like I'd been at the Dr. Norb Sander Invitational with Columbia, where there was a world record in the 4x-mile by the Brooks Beast. Shout out to them. And a high school record by Caitlin Tuohy in the women's 3K. So I was still working on that and watching the meet at the same time. And I saw a split screen. I was like, whoa, I think it was for field events, maybe an interview they did it. And then also at one time they went to commercial and they put the commercial on the left and they kept the action going on the right, like they do for, the short commercials for NFL games now. It's tremendous.
Yeah, they were definitely, Paul Swangard, when he let me know, Paul Swangard does some of the stuff for USATF.tv and for NBC Sports Gold, and he was making sure I knew about it, and he was proud that they had been able to get it together, and I think that's definitely a welcome development.
I think that was it. Paul was doing his field event recaps, and they kept showing the distance.
Business executives, please email me, Robert@letsrun.com. I'm curious, when you have one of those split screen ads, like when they're, NFL, and they did a lot in this, actually, NBCSN Broadcast, do you pay more or less for an ad when they're showing the action at the same time? I can see the argument for both. You pay more because people actually aren't going to the bathroom because they want to watch what's going on, or you pay less because your ad is splitting screen time with something else. So I'm not sure what the answer is.
Well, it sounds like a wrap on Boston. Should we move on, talk a little Dubai, talk Camel City? Where you guys want to go next?
Well, we know that the course records were set, and I think we need to ask questions. My biggest question coming out of Dubai, getting a Mola 203.34, Ruth Chebengedich. Is that how I said it? Chebengedich, John? Is that correct? 217.01.
Chebengedich, yeah, I think so.
So, this was Mola's debut. We've never seen a debut this fast. John, Dubai, though, has a history of guys that debut fast and don't always run that well down the road, although, they normally run pretty good after that. Will getting a Mola be a flash in the pan, or do you think this guy is someone that will be a force in the marathon for at least the next 5 years?
Do you have a coin handy? I would flip it, and if it's heads, yes. If it's tails, no. He clearly did some impressive stuff in the half marathon. He was 5th in Valencia last year. He was 1st in Riyadh, which was a really tough race. He ran 12:59 on the track. Clearly, he's got a pedigree, but who knows? I mean, we look at these guys who've won the marathon in Dubai. Who won 3 years ago? This guy, Tesfaye Abera. He won another marathon in Hamburg that spring, made the Olympic team, and has done absolutely nothing since then. If you look before that, you've got Sergei Mekhanin, you've got Ayel Abshiro. These guys haven't really done much. But then you've got the 2013 winner, Elisa De Sisa. Well, he's won Boston twice, and he's won New York. You've got the 2015 winner, Emi Bahanu. He has won Boston. So you're looking at it, it's roughly 50-50 in terms of, will this guy make it as a big-time guy? I mean, you could say the fact that he's run 203.34, that he's in the top 10 all-time already, you could kind of say he's made that, but yeah, I would like to see, will he win a major, I think, is the more interesting question. And I think past evidence suggests it's probably around 50-50.
I'm going big. This is Robert who asked the question. I'm emphatic. Yes, he will win a major. Yes, he will be a force. And the reason why I say that is he won the Riyadh half. I know everyone didn't show up, but that was a good field. They had over $200,000 for first place last year. He's run 12:59. This isn't some unknown. I mean, he's unknown sort of to the casual fan in America, or even the regular Let's Run visitor, because 12:59, what are you finishing 7th in Diamond League race? If you're not in the top 2 or 3, people aren't paying attention to you. But this guy, to me, he could be a poor man's Eliud Kipchoge. Eliud was obviously faster and a world champion, but there aren't that many guys that are, how many people in the world history have run sub 205, sub 13? I don't know the answer to that. But to me, I don't know how it could be a fluke to win Dubai for any of these guys. Clearly for him, it wasn't. So that's the answer there. And on the women's side, obviously, with Ruth, in 75 days, she broke 219 twice. Or was the first time? Yeah, right? 218 and 217. That is ridiculous. So the question really is there any chance they get her into London? I mean, that would be a third marathon. I would say she doesn't do that. But
well, it's also, would London accept her? Given, I think they're a legitimate. Again, she hasn't tested positive or anything like this, but some of these World Marathon Majors directors, they get worried when you see red flags popping up, and one red flag is running 2 extremely fast marathons in a very short period of time. Another red flag is she's represented by Federico Rosa, which again, not every Rosa athlete is dirty, but he's also had a string of his athletes test positive. And so I think people are legitimately worried that if they invite another one who has maybe a couple red flags and then she comes in and wins London, then a few months later she gets popped, that would look embarrassing for them. I don't know. I can't speak one way or another whether she's actually doing anything, but I feel like the chances of her getting invited to London at this point are pretty slim, and especially since they look like they've already spent a ton of money on the elite fields.
Well, John, you bring us to our message board post of the week, folks. I've just highlighted it on the top right-hand corner of the message board. I've changed the name because it had been up for a few days, but nobody really realized it because a native English speaker started the thread. Renato Canova has posted. He started the thread. I've now, the new title for the thread is Renato Canova defends Federica Rosa. It is not possible to control what they individually do. So basically, in our Dubai recap, we mentioned that Chepngetich is represented by Rosa, who represented Somgong and Kiprop, all these.
Rita Jeptu as well.
Rita Jeptu, yeah.
Obviously, Kiprop's still sort of appealing his doping suspension. But and Canova, I thought, had a good point. He's like, look, it's impossible to know who's doping if you run a system with the way the Roses do. And his argument is, he's like, Josh Herman's the other big agent in Kenya. He runs a very tight camp. Like basically everybody's in the LA Kipchoge camp, and the coaches see everybody every day. They live there for most of the days of the week, and you would see what's going on. You can educate the athletes. If somebody was doping, everybody would know about it. The Rosas have tons of camps all over Kenya. They have a lot of beginning athletes, and they just maybe work with some local coaches. They're not necessarily coaching them. It's not as tight. There's not as much observation. So Canova's argument is, like, there's no way to know what they're all doing. And hey, that's a good argument. But I posted a reply on there. I said, well, okay, that's fine. But in 2016, Federico's father, Dr. Rosa, Gabriele Rosa, he was defending Claudio Baradello. And he's like, look, Claudio should have known who was doping. He said, Claudio's a good guy. He's not a doper. These athletes, it was kind of the same, similar to what Canova's saying. Like, look, these athletes were doping on their own. Claudio didn't know about it. But Dr. Rosa said he should have known. If you're with the athletes, you should know who's doping. Well, Dr. Rosa himself was coaching Jemima Sumgong, and he was telling me in 2016 in New York, look, she didn't used to be that good of a marathon. I mean, she had like 5 years when she didn't break 2:28. All of a sudden, she's the Olympic champion. And he said, oh, yeah, it's because I had her run faster in practice. Looking back at that, guys, did I believe that? Run faster in practice? I mean, looking back now in hindsight, 3 years later, it's like, or 2.5 years later, it's like, did I publish the article knowing that this was a joke and she had to be doped? You run faster in practice and you get like 8 minutes faster? What? But I don't know. I think I'm proud of Canova for defending his friend and his fellow Italians, and he makes a good point. I don't think, I mean, and obviously if we think, look, when she ran 2:18, I'm like, okay, test her now. So hopefully the IDOF thinks the same thing. She's run 2:17. So if anyone's going to be tested a ton in the world, it's going to be her. So
that's the big thing. She needs to be tested consistently. And I don't think she's not in the World Marathon Major Testing Pool, and they have a good, they've been pretty good about testing all their athletes, but she hasn't run any majors, so she's not going to be in their testing pool, but she should now be in the IAF pool. So hopefully she gets tested. She continues to pass, hopefully, and she will get to run, assuming she's clean, she will continue to pass. That's the hope. Everyone's saying, yeah, if she's dirty, I don't want her to pass the test, is what I'm saying. But yeah, the more she's tested, the more there will be credibility behind her, and then she will likely run some majors at some point.
I think a good proposal would be, like, I don't know, the Rosas should give back the money that they've won from all these dirty athletes winning races. I mean, think how much money they've gotten off, assuming Aspel Kiprop is shown to be dirty. They're taking 20% of his endorsement contracts, his appearance fees, all of this. I mean, it's for Kiprop's case, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he gets popped. I guess he keeps his money too, because he's already spent it or saved it or whatever. He only has to pay it back if he wants to actually race again. And they keep the money. So, yeah, you can say, oh, it's decentralized. We don't know what's going on. But maybe there needs to be something put in place that the agents are expected to pay back the money, or they could put money in escrow and say, if one of our athletes gets popped, we will give this money back to the sport. We'll give it to prize money. We'll give it to drug testing. We'll give something. But instead, it's just like, oh, it's decentralized. We're not responsible. It's like some of these, I don't know, compliance officers at banks, they sort of look the other way. Certain, it's not, can't be certain what they're doing. We don't know if they're breaking the rules.
Reminds me of college basketball coaches, to be honest, where they all claim they never knew what these malfeasances were going on with their program, and they just happened to happen under their supervision, but it wasn't their fault.
Yeah, exactly. Until the FBI looks into it and found out some of them did know what was going on, right?
Some of them did, some of them didn't. Not everyone.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
by the way, speaking of college basketball, do you guys know that this shocked me this week, that a lot of John Wooden's players were paid big time money to go to UCLA? Like, I've lost not all respect for the man, but I don't want to hear about the Wooden way. People sort of say like, oh, when you got hired at Cornell, Robert, you said they'd be top 10. And now my take is like, how many Super Bowls did Bill Belichick win in Cleveland? And I love my guys at Cornell, and I think we were very successful. But if you don't have top talent, you're not going to be a world beater. Look at Alberto Salazar when he was working with the likes of Mike Donnelly and Chad Johnson, who were sort of guys of roughly Weldon's ability. He wasn't turning the world on fire. Now that he's getting Yomif Kavelcha and Mo Farah, he's doing it. So John Wooden, don't get me wrong, was an amazing coach. But when you're paying Lou Alcindor to show up, of course you're going to win. But that blew my mind. I'd never heard that, and apparently it's a known fact.
Well, Robert Johnson, slurring legends. First Sidney McLaughlin, now John Wooden. All on the same podcast. Guys, any other thoughts on the action last weekend on the track? I know we haven't really talked about the Armory meet, or the only other really news was I think Bekele said he's going to run Tokyo.
Yeah, I think it's time to move on. I would say look at the one question Robert had about Tokyo. I think it's a good one.
I have some questions for all of you. Let's just do some rapid fire questions.
All right,
are we pretty much going to get out of here and go to this interview that you guys did, or?
Yeah, we got USA Cross and Shelby Houlihan. She had some pretty interesting stuff to say.
So before we get to that, let's address a few questions. One, Weldon, you can start because I've already asked John this question off air. Will Sidney McLaughlin win a global outdoor title in 2019? Okay, not counting 4x4. Will she win the 400 hurdle title in 2019?
It being put on the spot. I like being the contrarian. I feel like the contrarian picks to say no. I think she breaks the world record and wins the world title, or she doesn't win the world title. It's like an either or. Yeah. So I think at the end of the year she'll have the world record and the world title, or she'll have neither.
I agree with you, and I'm kind of like you. I like to be contrarian. I'm going to say no as well, and my argument would be, I don't know. She clearly doesn't like a lot of pressure. She may be so much better than everybody else, she can still do it, but there's going to be pressure on her. And I don't know. I don't know if she's going to really enjoy that. It's all the way in October. I guess if they're smart, they can start her season late because she's not in college or high school, but it just seems a long time for her to be patient. So my argument would be, no as well. And John, we were sort of talking about this off air. She told you she'd like to do some modeling. She signed with William Morris, the agency. Do you think, she said she didn't like the professional environment of the Kentucky training. Can you be the world's best at something if you're not all in and committed to training like a professional?
Yes. The greatest track and field athlete of all time, well, greatest sprinter of all time, at least, was Usain Bolt. He was in a training camp with Johan Blake. Everyone who has heard anything about Johan Blake, Usain Bolt, they will tell you Johan Blake was the harder worker in that group. Okay? And Johan Blake ran incredible times. He was the 100-meter world champion. Usain Bolt's the greatest sprinter of all time. He was not known as the hardest worker. He worked hard when he had to, but he had a lot of different things. He liked to have fun. He was relaxed. He wasn't all about, he won a ton, but he wasn't, I feel like, would you guys say he was 100% all in on track? I feel like he had other interests. He liked to do other things, and he turned out pretty well. So that would be my example. And I think even if McLaughlin wants to do modeling and that stuff, there's time to do that. But as long as she balances her time and manages her time commitments well, I think she can still be the world champion. And I would pick her to be the world champion in the 400 hurdles this year, assuming the coaching switch goes well. That's the biggest question mark for me.
Okay, we need to record our predictions. 2 no's and 1 yes. John, that's a good point, though. I mean, by the way, just guys see Bolt's comments though this week. I focused on them in the week that was. He's now criticizing the current crop of Jamaican sprinters for not being dedicated and working hard enough and getting too much money too early. And that's why they're not any good. So it seemed weird to me. But I think that Sydney, I think there's a point you need, to me, the key is she doesn't need to be focused. No, it's January. I think actually learning to relax. I think there's a lot of distance runners that are kind of like 90% focused all the time. And I don't think that's healthy. I think right now you could afford to be 30% focused. You need to let loose. You need to know when it's not important. You need to have your off season and then your in season, particularly as a sprinter. So as long as she can focus really intensely for like 2 months, I think she could be fine. But I don't know. I think it does take a lot of work, and that would make me a little bit nervous if I was New Balance. Like, you can't just go through the motions and be a world champion. I mean, Bolt obviously worked hard when he needed to.
Yeah, no one's disputing that. Certainly when he had to, he put in the work.
Okay, so next question is, we talked about Bekele. He's going to be running Tokyo. I was very excited to see this. John, like, simple question. Will Kenenisa Bekele finish the 2019 Tokyo Marathon? And the reason why I asked that is because if he finishes, I think he runs well. If he's not finishing, I think the higher likelihood is he doesn't start. He may not start or he may not finish.
Yeah, I'm going to say
he wins.
Has he won? How many marathons has he won? When's the last time he won? I think it was 2016 Berlin, right? Yeah, since the 2016 Berlin, here's his results: DNF Dubai, 2nd London, DNF Berlin, 6th London, DNF Amsterdam. So obviously London's a tough race. 2017 getting 2nd in London, I mean, that would win a lot of marathons, but I don't know. He's not consistent enough for me to back him. I would say it's more likely that he drops out or that he doesn't start or doesn't finish than that he runs well. But obviously he's still super talented. If he ever gets it together in the marathon like he did in 2016, he's a threat to win.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me because I think that, I mean, he's the headliner, right? They're announcing him sort of as the headliner. So I can't imagine you do that. And the race is only how many weeks away? It's not like Tokyo announces their field very late. So you think he wouldn't do that if you didn't think he was in somewhat decent shape. But, one thing to remember about Bekele is people act like he hasn't done anything. He did run 2:03 low in a marathon. He's the 9th fastest guy all time if you average their top 5 performances. Thank you, Ken Nakamura. He's 2:05.18. So if he's into it, he runs well, and if he can finish. I thought this race was really good for him because the problem I think with him is he's only motivated by greatness. Like he wanted to break the world record. Maybe the 2:01.39 got that out of his head. Like, I can't do that. So that would be smart. I would like to see him just run races and try to win them. He was a great cross-country runner. Go to New York. That's your race. Go there. Don't try to run with Kipchoge in Berlin. Go to New York and win it. Now, that same thing with Tokyo. It's not as good as London, but go to Tokyo, just run in the lead pack and try to win it. The problem is I'm not sure if that motivates him to train. And if he doesn't train, it's just like Sydney McLaughlin. You can't win, particularly at a marathon. So, but I would love to see him run Tokyo, win it, run New York, win it, or just win one of them, particularly New York, and then go into the Olympics and think, if I can somehow beat Kipchoge, it's not going to be a time trial. It's going to be hot as hell. I mean, to me, they need to move the marathon out of Tokyo. It's too hot. It's not even a real sport. It's just going to be whoever's the best hot weather runner, most likely. If it's Kipchoge, great. If it's not, whatever. But imagine the excitement if it was on a real course. Like, you just say to Kenenisa, if you beat Kipchoge, there's no doubt you're the greatest. So I'm excited for it. Very excited. I'm going to be watching Tokyo. Right, and Tokyo's on like at night here, right? So we can watch it pretty easily, if I remember correctly.
Primetime Saturday night marathoning. It's great.
Speaking of pressure and people dealing with it, real quickly, I don't know, Caitlin Tuohy set the 3K record this weekend. And meanwhile, I think it was an indoor meet in Virginia. Claudia Lane, who was seen as her rival until she got hurt this year, Claudia was the Foot Locker champion, Caitlin the NXN champion. She flew all the way across the country and dropped out of a mile like halfway through it, going over 5-minute pace. I just feel like, maybe she got hurt, but it's sort of also like, I don't know, like it's her first race back and she flies halfway across the country to do it. Excuse me, not even halfway, all the way across. That makes no sense to me, but these kids are dealing with a lot of pressure and it's hard for them. We were talking to Shelby Houlihan, and you'll hear this in a second, Robert. And one thing she was saying, we're like, what advice would you give high schoolers? And at first she started to say, like, well, I didn't take everything serious enough. I was eating McDonald's for breakfast. And then she sort of backtracked a bit and sort of said, hey, well, I didn't need to be taking things quite as seriously. Caitlin, she's like tremendously successful. Her coach is doing a good job of, having her do different events this year than she did last year. So she doesn't compare everything. She handled herself tremendously racing the pros. She said all the right things, but, I feel like, everybody wants to be her, but at the same time, we're just hoping it turns out great, because we've seen a lot of instances where these top, especially young female distance runners, it doesn't. So I don't know. I was very impressed with her sort of, seeing her up close for the first time, but I wish her the best.
Yeah. I think you made some good points, Weldon. To me, Kane, we keep our fingers crossed for all these people. If you ask me, do I think Tuohy will be a world beater in 5 years? I would say, yes or no. I only have two options. I'd say no. I think the odds are clearly greater than 50% that a 17-year-old doesn't end up, the best 17-year-old isn't necessarily the best 20, 21, 22-year-old. That's not me knowing anything about her particular situation or anything like that. You try to look at them and see how they look. And I wouldn't have thought Mary Kane would be a nothing now, and you talked about Claudia Lane, her flying across the country and that mile race. If you watch it, I don't feel that comfortable talking about a high schooler, but here we go. I almost want to say she like faked falling off the track. Like it was going so badly. But wouldn't you know that you're not even in, she's a 10-minute 2-miler, like not even in 5-minute shape, like why fly out there? But when you said that, Weldon, you asked that question rhetorically, it very much reminded me of Mary Kane. Like, didn't they know when she flew over to Ireland or wherever it was this summer that it wasn't going to go well? So I think that the elite days for Mary Kane and Claudia are both over. And I hope it's not for, these other people. It's certainly everyone on the message board is very excited about Caitlin. I sort of tried to tamper that down, and people got mad that I tampered it down. But it's just mainly because it's like, I can't, as a fan, I'm not getting excited until they run, and then I'll be confident that sort of they've matured physically and are going to.
Yeah, well, we could talk about that forever, and we've got 30 minutes with Shelby Houlihan, so we need to move on. Also, this weekend we got, besides U.S. cross country, which you'll hear about with Shelby Houlihan, we've got the great action at the Camel City Elite Meet at JDL Fast Track. You have Edward Cheserek versus Nick Willis, so both bouncing back from getting beat in Boston. You have AJ Wilson versus Raven Rogers at 800. You got Clayton Murphy running the 800, and that'll be a preview for the week after. On our next podcast, we'll have a sort of preview of the kind of granddaddy of the U.S. indoor track season, Millrose. The Millrose Games is next weekend. We'll also have a recap of the U.S. cross country championships. And next, you're going to hear 30 minutes with Shelby Houlihan. She's never done a U.S. cross country. She's never run a 10K road race. She's, went down to 3:57 last year in 1500 from 4:03, won the Prefontaine meet. It's just clicking really well. And she's super pumped to run U.S. cross, and she may even run world cross, she told us. So listen to that. And then afterwards, we'll have a very brief sort of discussion of U.S. cross. So here you go, ladies and gentlemen, Shelby Houlihan. All right, everyone. We're joined by 10K cross-country runner, Shelby Houlihan.
Newly found 10K cross-country runner. We'll see how it works out, but yeah.
In case you guys didn't know, Shelby, arguably for sure top 3 in the world at 1,500 meters, is running world cross-country.
Well, USA cross-country. We got to find out.
USA cross-country. Well. Excuse me, jumping the gun there. But Shelby, kind of tell us where you are right now training. Why'd you decide to do cross country? Quite surprised to see your name on the starting list.
Yeah, I am right now in Colorado Springs. We've been up here since January 2nd. Just getting in a good block of altitude training, kind of getting ready for the long season ahead. But back in like November, December, workouts had like been going well, and I was feeling pretty strong. And I kind of just like jokingly brought it up to my coach Jerry, and was like, "How about that 10K cross country?" And he kind of laughed. And then after a couple more workouts, he was like, maybe that is a good idea. So it just kind of was a spur of the moment kind of thing, and trying to plant the seed early. Just because it is a long season. And I haven't done cross country since college, so about 4 years. And it was just kind of a new challenge, something fun to throw in the mix. And I'm really excited about it.
Looking at your resume, you haven't run cross country since 2014 NCAAs, but you were top 10 at NCAA XC twice, so that's not bad at all. I'm wondering, when it comes to this race, Jerry is he's famous for having a lot of control over where his athletes go. He's very specific about when and where you guys race. I'm wondering, when it comes to this, is this something that you really wanted to do, or is it something, I mean, you sort of mentioned it a little bit before, but is this something he just tells you, okay, this is the race we're doing, this is the schedule we're following, or how much input do you have into that decision?
Yeah, I don't think I have as much input as I think I do. Like I said, I kind of just mentioned it to him early on, and I know that if I can kind of get it in his head far enough out, he'll at least think about it. So that's kind of what I was doing. I mean, up until the last couple of weeks, it had always been like, well, this is something that we might do. And then about like 2 weeks ago, he finally committed to it and said that I could do it. But still going to do U.S. indoor in a couple weeks afterwards. But yeah, I just thought it'd be fun and just something different to mix it up.
Gotcha. I mean, and how prepared do you feel to run a 10K cross country race this weekend?
I think I'm prepared. It's hard to say because I've never done one. Like I said, I haven't done cross country in 4 years, and the last time I did it was a 6K. I've never done a 10K. I've never raced a 10K at all. So it'll be a little different, but I feel like I'm a fairly good cross country runner, and we do a lot of like endurance type of workouts. So I feel like I'm prepared for that longer race. But yeah, I mean, we'll see.
And would you run World Cross if you were selected for the team?
Undecided at this point. I feel like I was just trying to get him to let me do U.S. Cross, and so I guess that would be something to consider if I would make the team. But yeah, it's totally up to him whether or not it fits into his racing schedule for me. And that's something that we'd have to talk about afterwards.
Right, but let's take Jerry out of the equation for a second, though. Say this is up to you, Shelby Houlihan's chance. Your choice. You finish top 6 of the trials. What would you do? Would you want to do it, or would you not want to do it?
Oh, absolutely. I'm always down to race. I would love to, but yeah, I mean, it's usually not my decision anyway. So yeah.
I'm excited to hear that because I'm excited about World Cross Country this year. I mean, just as an event in general, it's one of our favorites at Let's Run. Sort of feel like it's about as pure as it gets. But this year, it's in Denmark. They have this spectator-friendly course. They have, a hill. You run on top of a building. There's beer tents. So, if we got a 1,500 meter running it too, I think maybe we can get some American fans to go over and watch.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be really cool. Sounds like a fun event. So I'd definitely love to do it. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens.
Well, I feel like you got to convince some of your teammates because you look at the women you guys are entering in this race this week. I mean, Bauman's really, sending a pretty powerful squad. You got Amy Cragg, you got Courtney Frericks, you got Marielle Hall, you got Carissa Schweizer. I mean, you guys by yourselves, I'm not saying that you're all going to make the team because it's a tough team to make, but if that happens, I think that's a group that could maybe bring home a medal if you guys all decide to run in Denmark. Yeah,
I mean, it's really fun just being able to go with my teammates. It kind of makes it a little less stressful, I guess. And I'm really excited to line up with them and just kind of see what we can do. We're definitely I mean, I know it's not as much of a team aspect kind of race, but we're kind of focused on just like working together throughout. And yeah, I mean, cross country is one of those races that it is kind of more of a team thing traditionally. So, I mean, it'll be fun working together and kind of having everyone hopefully in a big group throughout the whole race. But yeah, it'll be fun.
Who's looking the fittest out of the group that you guys are sending to Tallahassee?
I think everyone's really, really fit. It kind of just could be anyone on the day. Marielle's a really good 10K runner. You know, Amy's a marathon runner. So like everyone's pretty strong. Courtney's good on the grass. So yeah, I mean, so is Carissa, obviously. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens.
And this time of year in training, are you guys doing a lot of the training together? I mean, obviously, I assume once the track season really gets going, or for sure for outdoors, you guys are doing much more event-specific stuff. But this time of year, are you doing even most of your workouts as a group? Or tell us a little bit about that dynamic.
Yeah, we've been doing all of our workouts together. This year has been a little different. Usually at altitude, we'll kind of start focusing, like usually I'd be focusing on like 1,500 or mile and 3K or 2 mile workouts for indoor. And since the season's so long, we've kind of kept that fall training, just like that base strength training going into this January. So we haven't done like a ton of specific, like more shorter workouts, like because I'm going to do U.S. indoor. So I don't feel like we've really put a ton of emphasis on that. We've mostly just been doing base building. And I mean, I think we all know we're going into this not like this shouldn't be the peak of our season right now, because we're really focusing on July and, you know, September, October for hopefully making that world team and having a good showing at Worlds. So this isn't really the focus. We're just mostly strength training right now.
Couple of training questions. I'm sure people sort of wonder, because you know you're a 1,500 runner, but I don't know, maybe till last year even people thought you were a 5K runner, and in college you were an 800 runner, and your mom was a 235 marathoner. So you've got a lot of talent and genes, you know, but a huge range. But I think when you sort of became a professional, you hadn't done a lot of endurance stuff. Like, what's the longest run you even do in training? I mean, I assume that's not as far as some of the marathoners do, but even like you go out, do long tempo runs. I'm just kind of curious. Just I don't know. People shouldn't look for training advice just to go copy this, but I'm just kind of curious. Like, what's the longest run you do? What's the longest sort of tempo type thing you do, or longest hard effort?
Yeah, I mean, our long runs. It's taken me a few years, but I'm up to like 2-hour long runs. And that's we go off of time. So usually, depending on the pace I'm running, how good I'm feeling, it's either somewhere between like 16 to 19 miles. But yeah, I mean, some of the tempos were about like 4 or 5 mile tempos. We usually do some stuff on the end too, but I think the longest, like usually like fall strength training is more like mile repeats or like, like stuff like that, like just, and that'll get up to like a 10-mile workout day. So it's
10 miles worth of intervals.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's definitely a lot more than what I was doing in college. Like I think the most I ever ran in college was 16 miles a week. So, and definitely not that long of workouts. So that was the big transition coming into this group. And I think as I've been able to stay healthy and consistent, and that is obviously showing in my races, I'm finally getting strong enough aerobically that I have that speed on the end of my races.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I remember you bringing up a few times after your races last year, obviously, and, you had a ton of success on the circuit. I'm curious, though, I mean, clearly you've built up that endurance, and now, your kick is coming through, and that it's really powered you to some big wins. But, you're turning 26 years old next week. What is the next skill you need to develop as you, sort of go further in your career? What is the next skill you really want to work on and improve part of your running?
I think mostly just staying consistent and staying healthy. I think there's still ways that I can go as far as aerobic strength. I still think I'm kind of breaking the surface there. I think last year was a good jump, but I also think it was kind of just the start. Yeah, I mean, I feel like usually there's always little things that I can work on every year, such as like diet getting a little better. I'm still terrible at stretching and like doing rehab stuff. So I mean, I feel like I'm the type of person that I can't do everything. I can't change everything all at once, or I'll just kind of burn out. I have to do little things at a time, and it's taken me a long time to start like consistently doing all of the right things, but I still think there's a lot of little things that I can improve on.
Yeah, but I mean, is that kind of nice to know that, hey, I've still got a little room to improve? Like if you're doing everything at once, you know, you kind of got to think to yourself, like, how am I supposed to get any better? Like in the back of your mind, You're thinking, hey, it's nice I got some room to improve.
Yeah, I mean, it's really exciting because I feel like I said, last year was a big jump, mostly just, I think, in confidence, racing more confidently and putting myself in the mix. But I do think that was kind of just, in my opinion, like the start of things coming together and doing things consistently and doing all the right things. And I think there is still a lot more to improve on, and that's really exciting. I'm really excited to see what I can do this next year and within the next, like, I don't know how long my career is going to last, but hopefully like the next 10 years, you know? Yeah. So, I mean, it's exciting to think about.
Yeah. Taking a look at the year, last year as a whole, I mean, it was amazing. At least as an outsider, sort of looking at it. Was your success last year a surprise? Did it just seem, I mean, to you, you're running on this whole other level internationally, but did it feel just the same? Was it, if we rewound things to this time last year, were you guys talking with Jerry, like, I'm really going to be great at 1500 this year? I mean, what was your sort of thought process? And I don't know, now that you're one of the best in the world, is it, you know, it's day to day? Is it, hey, I'm still Shelby Houlihan out there training, or is it's just completely different now? You're sort of on the very tip top of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little surprising, I guess. I knew I was capable of getting to that point. I guess wasn't expecting it to be last year. And I think I did have some big PRs in the 15 and the 5K, but on the inside, just looking at it, I think I was capable of running around 4 flat the year before, and like around 14:45 in the 5K the year before. I just didn't really have that opportunity, or I didn't take advantage of those opportunities, didn't put myself in the races to run that fast. So I think the fitness has steadily grown each year. Just last year was a big step for me, just racing with confidence and kind of being a little fearless, throwing myself in, and to my surprise, wasn't really dying towards the end. I still had that kick, which was new. But yeah, I mean, as far as day-to-day stuff goes, I'm still training like I normally do, you know. I try not to let that pressure of how well I did last year affect me. Like, obviously I'm doing a little better and doing all the little things, and I didn't take as hard of a break this last fall. I mean, I did take a break, but the year before, you should have seen me. I was very, very out of shape. I took a really big mental break, and this year I didn't feel like I needed the mental break as much because I was really excited about how the year went and how this next year will hopefully go. But yeah, I mean, just same old Shelby, training every day. I'm just loving what I do.
Yeah. What was your favorite race from last year?
I'd say probably Prefontaine. That was really the breakout race for me, and I knew I was capable of winning. I just didn't know for sure. Not that you ever know for sure, but I knew that if I put myself in there and gave myself the best shot, I could potentially come away with a win. And for it to kind of come together like that and everything to fall into place was a really cool experience and kind of the highlight of my year.
Yeah, I mean, and then from there, you were pretty much unbeatable for like the next 2 months. You know, you win USAs, you win in Lausanne as well. And then at the end of the year, you were second at Diamond League Finals, second at the Continental Cup. Obviously, those aren't, on paper, objectively, they're not bad results. But when you're used to winning, they're, I think, a little, obviously you want to win those. Did you feel worn down at all at the end of the year? Or was it just a simple, the result of racing against really good women? Like, what did you think about those runner-up finishes at the end?
Yeah, they stung a little bit. I think I didn't run tactically very smart in the final of the Diamond League, which made it harder to swallow, I guess. I think if I had run it a little smarter, I would have had a better chance at winning. And I think, I think I could have potentially won, but I didn't race that smart, and I came away with second, which was still really good. I mean, it was hard because I had to remind myself, 6 months ago, you'd been psyched about getting second at the Diamond League final, and now I'm disappointed.
358, it's a pretty good run.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like trying to look at the big picture of things and reminding myself that this is a really, really good step this year. Even though I almost came away with a perfect season, and then the Continental Cup was kind of the same thing. It just was a sit and kick race, and I trusted my kick a little more than I should have probably, and I think I still kicked in a 57, but wasn't enough.
It was Winnie Chibet was I think she was 56 on that last lap, right? Or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty hard for any woman to beat.
Really fast. Yeah, and I just maybe would have run that a little differently as well, but it's good learning experience, and I think for it also being an off year, that's the year that I do want to get second, and I do want to learn things and make mistakes, to hopefully make myself better for World Championships and Olympics. So I think overall it was a really good year, and I'm really happy with it. It just kind of stung at the time, getting second in those two races.
Yeah, the Continental Cup, I'll forgive you for thinking you had the best kick because, I mean, you were a great 400 and 800 runner, even in high school, right? What'd you run in high school in the 400?
I think in high school I ran 55s in the open 4. I think I split a little faster in college. I never ran the 400 in college. I did it on the 4x4, but around 54s.
One of my pet peeves is how every 1,500 meter runner thinks they have the best kick. But
yes.
For you in that race, I don't blame you for thinking, okay, I can kick pretty good on this. You didn't know someone else was going to run a 56, but
yeah, I mean,
especially looking at that field.
Yeah, every 1,500 runner thinks they have the best kick, and Jerry also probably thought I had the best kick because he told me to just sit and wait. And looking back, I would have taken it a little sooner and just tried to run it in the ground. But yeah, you live and you learn.
Yeah. I mean, how often, the one thing when I think of your kick last year, I think of that 5K at USA's. And honestly, watching that replay, it looks like you're a 100-meter sprinter, just peeling away from everyone. And I wonder, do you get the same feeling when you watch it? Or what is your thoughts on that final 100?
Yeah, I think in that particular race, it wasn't a super fast race, and we practiced doing that in practice. We do 120-meter sprints where you're switching gears like that. And I think if you look at closely, you can kind of see me switching gears. And I mostly did that because Rachel Schneider is really fast, and I didn't really know where she was, so I just wanted to make sure I used all my gears. And yeah, I mean, like I said, that's something we practice, and that's something that I've been able to get better and better at. And I practiced that in high school as well. So just, hopefully keep having that towards the end of my races.
Yeah. Do you have you ever timed yourself for what you can do in 100 or a flying 100 in practice?
I mean, I've timed myself at the end of a workout doing 100. I think it was around 12 low, but I don't really know what that means.
It sounds fast to me.
Yeah, was that, I mean, you went to high school in Iowa. Did that help sort of, does it really matter where you're racing? I mean, or do you feel an attachment there? Is it better to win at home? And we were talking sort of before we started the podcast that the hardest part about being a professional runner is all the travel and your training camp, and you brought your cat with you to stay at home, but sort of doing it in front of friends and family, is that extra special?
Yeah, that's I love going back to Iowa, and I'm really excited that USA's is back there again this year. Mostly because I still have a ton of family that live in Iowa, and they don't really get to see me a ton because I am traveling a lot, and they also don't get to see me race a ton because usually we're not racing in Iowa. So it's just a good opportunity to see everyone and have a huge fan base. Like I can hear my whole family all the way around the track, which is a pretty cool feeling, just to have that. And I also have like a lot of those people that do come and watched me in high school, which I think is also like a really cool connection. It's a little bit of a pride thing. I do want to go back and like win just to kind of make my home state proud. So it's definitely it's a really cool experience to be able to go back and have that big fan base there.
Yeah, speaking of high school, I want to start asking every professional we talk to this question, but there's probably a lot of high schoolers that look up to you. You're their like local person who made good, but like, what's the number one advice you would give a high school runner? Or if you look back to high school, Shelby, what would you tell her?
That's kind of a hard question. I mean, for me personally, I know I was, not doing a ton of the right things. I was eating McDonald's every morning before school and but I think that was like good for me because I didn't need to be a professional or even a college runner at that point. I think the best advice that I can give is to not, like, it's just to be patient, I guess, and not wear yourself out. I think my coach in high school, I had like kind of a personal coach that I worked with, and I mostly trained like a sprinter, and he only wanted to meet with me like 3 times a week because he wanted it to be fun. And I think at the end of the day, as long as you're having fun with what you're doing, you're going to be good at it. You're going to be willing to put in the time and effort it takes to be good at it. So yeah, I mean, just staying patient and not taking it too seriously because it should be fun. It should be a fun thing that we're doing.
Yeah, and your mom was quite the good runner. Do you remember her running? And I'm sure if your parents good at running, she wants it to be fun for you, but I'm sure at the same time she wants you to be good. Like, how did they manage that whole thing? Because, you developed so well at the sport. How did they make sure it was fun for you and you sort of had this long-term approach?
Yeah, I think they actually did a really good job in that. And, I never felt pressured to go run every day or like train every day by my parents. And usually it was like just watching my mom go run, I could see how much that she loved it, and it made me want to do it as well. And she would go out for her long runs, and I'd go up and I'd be like, "Can I come with you?" Just because I liked doing long runs with her, and it was like a good bonding time. So I kind of found the love of running on my own, which I think is a really important thing. I don't think anytime you're forced to do something, especially I know myself, as someone's trying to force me to do something, I'm going to try to do the complete opposite. So yeah, I mean, I think they did a really good job in just letting me kind of do my own thing and never pressure me to try to love it or anything like that. And they really like let me find it on my own, which I think was huge. And even today, my mom is the first person I call after all my races just to kind of go over what happened or like what went right or how I felt. And like, she's always saying, "Oh, I think you could have run faster." Like, all right. I felt like I did everything I could, but yeah, no, I don't know. It's good to have her there, and she knows all about it. It's just, yeah, it's a good bonding thing that we have.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how good you guys are.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was going to sort of talk about just like this track season. Obviously, it's still a couple months away, and you got to run USA indoors. But like, you've had success over so many distances, and we obviously know your Twitter handle is still Shelby 800. That's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, are you a 1500 runner for this year moving forward? Like, how do you view yourself? Is that going to be the event for you?
I view myself as being a 1500 meter runner right now. I'm really enjoying the 1500, and I think there's still a lot that I can do there. And I think that's my most experienced and strongest event right now. I am liking the 5K, but I'm still a little young there. I don't really know exactly tactically how to race that very well yet. I'm getting better every time I do it, but I feel a lot more confident just in the 1500, and I think you can kind of see that in my races. I have a lot more confidence in myself and where I should move. It's more of I race on instincts more in that race than I do in the 5K. But I guess that's also the conversation that I'm going to have with Jerry and what makes the most sense. I kind of hope I race the 1500 this year. I'm really enjoying that. But yeah, I guess whatever he thinks is going to be the best for me is what I'll do.
Right. Well, I mean, I was looking at the schedule at Worlds, and the 15 and 5K finals are they're like back to back. They're like 20 minutes apart. So
yeah, I probably won't double, but
sorry, what? Oh, probably won't double.
I definitely won't double.
Yeah, I mean, are you upset though that double's not even an option? I feel like it's a fairly natural one obviously for your skill set.
I guess not upset. It would be better if it was an option. I like to race. But at the same time, I think there's like 3 rounds of the 15 and there's 2 rounds of the 5K. So there'd just be a lot of racing over that small period of time. So I don't even know if I would double anyway. But yeah, I mean, having that option would be nice. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's like, not till October you have to be worrying about this stuff. It's a long way away.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I wanted to hit on briefly was if you look at the American women, you got, as a whole, American women have medaled at pretty much every event on the track in recent years. 800, steeplechase, 10K. They've even done it in the marathon. Amy Craig, in London 2017, she was bronze in the marathon. The one event no woman from America has ever medaled in at Olympics or World Championships is a 5K. And I'm just curious, with the success that people have had in the 10 and the 15, why do you think that is? Why do you think there's that drought exists, or even are you even aware of that drought?
No, I'm definitely aware of it. I think right now American women in the 5K just kind of have that like mythical 15 flat barrier, and I'm hoping after last summer having run in the 1430s that more people will kind of realize they're capable of running a lot faster than they are right now. I'm kind of hoping to get that movement started, and it helps having a bunch of 5K runners on this Bowerman team. So yeah, I mean, I think once we kind of get back past that mental barrier of that 15 flat barrier, I think we'll probably hopefully be seeing more and more women making the 5K final and like being in contention, which would be really exciting.
I like the sound of 1430 Club, because I think you're right. It's sort of been like a 15-minute club, and people could even run that. And at Worlds, just the way it would work, you can make a final running around there, but it's no longer competitive, for the top spots.
No, I mean it's hard to look at like the other like international runners that are running a lot faster. Like they're running way faster than 15 flat, and it's kind of like frustrating to see the USB so far behind that right now. And yeah, I mean, hopefully we can kind of get the ball rolling and get more people under that barrier, and maybe they'll start realizing how much faster they can run. And I'd really, really like to get the U.S. women really competitive in the 5K again. So that'd be really cool.
Making 5K great again, or making it great for the first time. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely make it great for the first time.
Yeah.
John, do you have anything else? I mean, this has been great. We said we keep you about 30 minutes.
No, I think. I guess. All right. Yeah, you've been very generous with your time, Shelby. Last thing I wanted to ask you was, do you have a Jerry story or something about Jerry that the public doesn't know? Because I think I've talked to him in an official interview. I've talked to him once in my career. He just doesn't really talk to the press, and I need to rely on the Bowerman people to do that for me.
Unofficially, he's great.
Give us the story about him. Give us like something that people don't know about him.
Oh, a story. I'm sure there's a ton of stories. I just can't really think of right now.
I think it was already good, John. She already threw him under the bus for the Continental Cup tactics.
I mean, one funny thing. Subtle. We did have this. We have a Bowerman banquet at the end of the year, every December, and one one of the Bowerman Awards this year. So Jerry was up there kind of introducing me. And, you know, he's definitely not one to, like, really pat you on the back as far as, like, he was just kind of saying, like, you know, she had a great season and it was almost good, but just those 2 second place finishes, and everyone was just like, oh my God, like, come on. She got second.
Wow.
And he just, like, wouldn't give it to me, which was, I mean, I kind of agreed what he was saying, but, you know, it was kind of funny to hear him, like, it was almost good, but just those second place finishes at the end. And, yeah, he'll never give it to you.
You need to have a perfect season.
Wow,
to
perfect
have a good
season.
season.
She'll show Jerry this year.
Something to strive for.
So
Well, now I'm
the
interested.
Bowerman
What
banquet,
awards
is
do
it
you
for
guys
the
have? Like,
What was that?
what different awards does he hand out at this banquet? I'm fascinated by this now.
It's mostly geared towards, like, the youth group that we have, but we also recognize the professional runners in the Bowerman group and some of the other elite runners. But I won one, and I think Mo won the male athlete of the year. Yeah, there's a ton of different awards, and it's mostly, like I said, geared towards the kids. And there's Masters awards too. We have a bunch of different groups with the Bowerman Track Club. But yeah, it's a fun banquet.
Well, you'll have to win the cross country this weekend, and then you can be on your way to the perfect season.
Yeah, don't finish second.
Yeah.
You better not finish
I know.
second.
I'll never hear the end of it. Yeah.
Well, good luck this weekend, and thank you for the time. Totally
Yeah, of
appreciate
course.
it.
Thank you. Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Wow, guys, I don't even know what she said because I wasn't on the interview, but I am so excited. I wanted to have a segment before the interview, but John vetoed it, folks. We let the junior staffers. John, is that a rude comment to call you a junior staffer?
Clearly, I'm
let
to you guys.
we let our senior staff writers, the non-owners of the company, we let our best writer.
Oh, thank you.
Segments of the podcast. I wanted to make a prediction whether I thought she would run. I didn't know. My main question was, is she going to run World Cross? I thought she's definitely going to run World Cross. I feel like that's the only time I run into, like, the Bowerman Track Club guys. I see Jerry Schumacher and Pascal Dubert, the coaches, World Cross every 2 years, it seems like. And I thought, World's in October. Like, there's no way they're going to want to hit anything early. So why wouldn't she run World Cross? I think it would help her. So I'm excited she said that, right? I mean, very good.
Well, all right, let's clarify. The plan sounds like tentatively the plan is to run World Cross, assuming everything goes smoothly and they're healthy. She said she wasn't entirely sure. Basically they all kowtow to Jerry on this one, and whatever he says goes. If he thinks it's in their best interest, they'll do it. But it does seem like there's genuine interest on both sides to run it for both Houlihan. If she makes the team, I mean, she's got to make the team first, and this is her first ever 10K, so it's not a slam dunk. But you would think she has a pretty good chance. And some of these other women who were entered, I mean, Carissa Schweizer, Marielle Hall, Amy Cragg, all of those women you would think have a decent shot at making the team. So I think it could be very exciting. Amy Cragg, not entirely sure if she would run World Cross Country, but again, I think if all of them do it, it's going to be really exciting. Could have a really, really good team. And all of them should be in the battle for the win. Molly Huddle is another woman we should mention, is running U.S. Cross.
God,
she will not run World Cross Country if she makes the team, though.
Why don't we do a whole podcast on that race? That's incredible. Huddle, Craig, Flanagan.
Pretty much full Bowerman team versus
Flanagan's
Molly
not running it.
Minus Flanagan, who may not be running at all. I mean, she's still training, but we don't know what's left in her career. But it's great. The whole team's out there, minus Flanagan and Molly Huddle. It's just tremendous. And I just, as you guys just heard, and Robert has not yet heard on the podcast, I congratulated Shelby. I was like, as a track fan, this is what we need. Like, you guys getting out there, getting dirty, racing. And she was just kind of pumped for the challenge and looking forward to it. And she said all the right things, I felt, even just about the 5K. She's like, look, 15 minutes isn't competitive. We need to be running in the 1430s. And that's what the American mindset needs to be. So the women's race is stealing the thunder over the men at U.S. Cross.
Yeah, this is so exciting to me. I mean, cross country to me, even though Weldon was a great runner. I was like a mediocre runner. even though Weldon sucked at cross country, and we grew up in a flat Dallas, Texas, and we're not used to running on the grass, but cross country is what the sport is about and should be about. And to me, like, I feel like we should raise. I always want to have a Let's Run event. Maybe I should just raise $100,000 and add it to the prize money of World Cross to make sure that the best people show up at it. You know, some of these people that are running the London Marathon, I'd love to see them. Bridget Koskei go win the World Cross Country title 3 weeks before that. It'd be amazing. But to me, one thing about cross country I think that would make the sport more interesting is, look, I know that Eliud Kipchoge is the best flat marathon runner in the world. He runs the same flat marathon every year. I mean, whether it's London or Berlin, he can run a time trial race like no one else. But how would he do in New York or Boston if there's hills? So I think one of the reasons why our sport sometimes struggles with popularity is there's no randomness in the results. The best person almost always wins. That's why people like the marathon, is there's so a little bit more randomness just because of the distance. But you know, there's no interceptions, there's no fumbles, there's no hit the goalpost, you know, dominate possession like you do in soccer and still lose the game. But to me, with cross country, there's the course. You could show up and it could be, if you're not a mudder and it's really muddy, you're probably screwed. Or, you know, it adds a little bit more randomness to the results. So I think that it's really exciting for a fan. And maybe the fact that it's biannual, like, we don't really know, like Shelby Houlihan doesn't do cross all the time. So we don't know how she's going to look, you know, okay. So very, very excited about it. Now, guys, did you ask her the other thing I wanted to ask? I bet you didn't, just because I'm going to complain. So if you did or didn't, here's my question of the week. I want to have Shelby Houlihan. Does she have a better chance at medaling? Obviously, the 300 is her best chance for medaling. But her second best chance, would it be the 800 or 5,000? Did you ask her that question?
We did not.
We did not.
The answer is dependent on the rule. I think the IAF ruling, in my opinion. I think if the hyperandrogenism rules are upheld, she would. Oh, actually, I don't know if she would still have a better chance than 800. I would say 5K right now, as things stand.
Yeah, I agree as well. Actually, let me see her run a couple of 5Ks and get her in 1420s. But even let's say it's like a 1430 race. Can she kick it with those women off that pace? Possibly. The 800, what, you tell me she's going to beat Ajay and a bunch of those women? I don't think she's quite as fast as they are. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
She might not even make the U.S. team. I mean, there's Wilson and there's Rogers. I mean, she would need to get the third spot on the U.S. team.
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. 800 is so good. One person I talked to this week.
I'm saying if you put her in the final, it's like, how could she not run like 158? But her PR is only like, is it still 201 from college? No.
158 is not getting you a medal, Robert. What event have you been watching?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of. She may be able to run fast, like if it was a time trial race, because she's so strong, but she wouldn't have the wheels. It's just like when people talk about Galen Rupp running a mile just because he can run at the 350 indoor mile. I'm like, no, he would get smoked at USA's. He would get smoked by 336 guys at USA's. Her PR is 201.12. So dumb question. I am actually ruling myself out. 5,000. Although her Twitter handles, John, still is Shelby.
Shelbo 800. She said she's never changing it. That's where her roots are. I respect that.
So I would like to see her run 800 just to break 2.
She's got a great mix, you know. She's Shelbo 800. Her uncle, I think, was an NCAA champ at 800. Is that right?
I didn't know that.
Was it NCAA finalist or the Laura Grows as you? So he was a good 800 meter runner. How about that? Her mom was a 235 marathoner. I mean, she's got great genes.
Yeah, she's got the dream. I think, every runner wants to be. They want to be that guy who can win conference in cross country, guy or girl who can win conference in cross country and be great at, NCAA cross nationals, but they also want to be able to run on the DMR or something like that. And Houlihan's one of those people who can do it all.
That is true.
Walden's correct. Her uncle Bob was an NCAA indoor 800 meter champion. So he was better than Shelby. Wow.
I mean, that was back in the day. But
Shelby won an NCAA title outdoors, so got to give her credit for that.
And we're sort of definitely over an hour, but now people have already heard the podcast. If you're still listening at this point, we could keep going.
Well, good job, guys. Very excited.
No, we have to say one. We've gone over so long. We have to say something about the men's race at U.S. Cross Country. You got all the Army guys and Drew Hunter, Eric Jenkins, Ben True. Who's going to win it, guys?
Wait, Drew Hunter's in? I'm very excited now. I'm totally not into the Drew Hunter like track thing at all. I've never stopped running the mile. It bothers me. But now I'm excited to hear he's in the cross. Anyone who runs cross, Drew, I'm a big fan again now. Like the track, the mile now.
Scott Fauble?
Wait, Scott
Garrett
Fauble?
Heath?
Is he going
Garrett Heath?
You guys are thinking about this wrong. It's going to be from the W Cap. It's going to be one of those guys, surely.
I didn't say they win. I'm just throwing out new names.
Well, I was just, when you said Scott Fauble, I was thinking of the 44 topless photos that John kept mentioning in his book review.
I mentioned them once. Robert's thinking his mind has wandered when I mentioned that in the article.
There's a new Scott Fauble book out, guys. John, what's the name of it?
Inside a Marathon by Scott Fauble and Ben Rosario. A recommended read. My review's up on letsrun.com.
I guess I should read your review first before I read the book. Confession. I was busy today, John. I could tell you really liked it, and it makes me want to read the book.
Yeah, I recommend it. It was a good one.
Make your predictions for U.S. Cross. I don't even have a list of who's running.
I mean, Leonard Courier, Shadrack Kipchirchir, probably, Hunter.
I'm picking Shadrack. Leonard Courier didn't look that great at the Great Stirling cross country in Scotland. Hillary Bohr actually won that race. He's running U.S. Cross. He has a good chance to win. I'm going to go with Kipchirchir is the best. I mean, he's a 27:07 10K guy. He was second at USA's in the 10K last year, basically because he ran a tactically questionable race, allowed himself to get outkicked by Lopez Lemong, but he was second behind Paul Chelimo at the US 5K champs back in November. Kipchirchir, to me, is the best guy in the field. He's going to win. Chelimo is not running.
Could we send an all foreign-born team, or do we not?
You'd need 6.
I'm sure you could if you went far enough down.
Hillary, how about, all right, we got Emmanuel Bohr, Hillary Bohr, Stanley Cabene, Shadrack Kipchirchir, Leonard Courier, Abibia Simbasa. All those guys could theoretically make it. Emmanuel Bohr may be a little bit of a stretch. I think you'll get Ben True has a good chance to make it, but it's certainly possible.
I was really worried that nobody was going to do it. I was going to really upset me. So I
think with Worlds later this year, more guys are considering. This is great.
U.S. Cross, we got the U.S. Cross, Camel City. Get excited, folks. Be a fan.
If you're thinking about going to World Cross Country, seriously, email me, Weejo at Let's Run. And guys, we didn't do user audio this week. We have a caller with a nice suggestion. He has some soft suggestions on how we handle racial issues on the message board, but we can do that next week.
No, yeah, I definitely want to hear that. But folks, Weldon's made it complicated. You have to go to some link and then click on. You can always call in your audio. 844 Let's Run. That's 844-538-7786. Put it in your phone as your favorite.
Yes, call in, leave a message. We did have a couple of phone messages this week. The user audio is great. The guy called in as a Nike Vaporfly 4% last week. Still tremendous.
I need to give a shout out to Still Town Runner. He left a great message, and I apologize for not getting it.
Yes, but 3 weeks in a row, 3 podcasts. This one, we got to get the production a little bit tighter, guys. But I thought it was good. We had our first interview, so thank you, Shelby. That is great. We might even just spit that off as his own little podcast. People just want a 30-minute listen. But to the guy who last time said we should always end with the famous fake Mike Rossi audio. Here it is, guys. Signing off. This is Weldon Johnson for Jonathan Galt and Robert Johnson. Here is the fake Mike Rossi.
Okay. I'm up. Weldon Johnson? Man, fuck Weldon Johnson. Robert Johnson? Holy crap, fuck Robert Johnson. Malmo the racist mod? Fuck you, Malmo, for deleting all those posts, you racist. Steve Soprano? I don't even know what Steve Soprano does, but fuck that guy too. Jonathan Galt, the only guy with a journalism degree at Let's Run. Fuck Jonathan Galt. Fuck everyone at Let's Run. All of you guys, fuck you. I'm just kidding. Thanks for the website, guys.
Wow, folks. That's not my former runner, Oliver. I called him, by the way. It sounds just like him. That's all I have to say. Goodbye.